Heads up, folks. Railway tracks will see an 80% reduction of use for the next few days. And all we can do is just anxiously await in anticipation of some kind of solution, resolution, and long-term answer to many questions about many of the problems affecting so many union workers, and not just here in the US, but all over the world. Folks, and I really want to discuss the major implications and consequences that can result from unexpected strikes, shutdowns, and disruptions in supply chains, transportation, freight, railway freight, passenger railroad cars, and more. And with the ability to place millions of people in harm's way as a result. So, according to inews.co.uk, only around 20% of normal services will run on Friday and Saturday, with trains that are operating starting later and finishing earlier, resulting actions that have been taken from prior rail strikes warnings as trains across UK canceled or stopped earlier for the fourth consecutive day. Now, unlike railroad union workers and railway freight employees that are supposed to be backed by U.S. unions that collect dues as payments from workers to represent them and protect their rights, wages, safety, and quality of life, railway workers in the UK have executed by fulfilling on strike threats and shutting down a large portion of the railway commute for many people, products, and goods. Well, without the unbelievable political intervention like we have here and like we have seen here in the U.S. from Congress and President Joe Biden passing a new bill into law making it illegal for the railroad workers to go on strike, all of which, by the way, was based on their unfair treatment and terrible working conditions with an extremely fair request for the bare minimum of paid sick days off. And this after years of failed negotiations and contract delays and disruptions in pay increases. Welcome back, preppers. Today is January 6, 2023. And although we may have narrowly survived the extreme challenges of 2022, we are now on track, on board this speeding freight train heading straight towards an almost apocalyptic-like collapse that is poised to take out so many families and shut down their quality of life while destroying their paychecks in an attempt to wipe them out of any form of personal, financial, and economic stability completely and altogether. Many of which barely getting by and living paycheck to paycheck, unable to cover a $500 emergency expense without having to ask for help or borrow money from a friend, a family member, or a payday lender loan provider. And if they were to experience any sort of unfortunate disruption to their income, layoff, reduction of hours, reduced commissions, slash bonus paychecks, or any other financial hiccup, well, they wouldn't last much longer than a month and could potentially be financially wiped out in as little as 30 days. Ladies and gentlemen, please pay close attention to the warnings that are clearly being shown as we see how politicians, elites, and corporations are preparing to set forth the next phase of their planned doom and destruction of the economy, the dollar, the human workforce, the middle class workers, blue collar workers, union workers, railroad union workers, teamsters, bankers, tellers, clerks, low income, minimum wage earners, and high income earners alike. It is clear that it is either one or the other. If you're not one of them, then you are potentially at risk and in harm's way of experiencing the fallout and collateral damage of their planned attack and destruction as they continue to push and prepare for times of intense and increased starvation, food shortages, higher prices of chicken, eggs, meat, beef, milk, you name it, anything at the grocery store, while driving up daily living expenses for basic necessities to ensure a reasonable, albeit low, quality of life, and seeing rent prices climb, interest rates soar, credit cards getting maxed out, homes being placed in foreclosure, low income, affordable housing rental solutions being sold out from underneath tenants of over 30 plus years and multiple family generations. This is it, ladies and gentlemen. Now is the time to prepare. We have to suit up and put on our armor, and I encourage you all to tell your family to prepare for the greatest potential wipeout and planned attack against the innocent people that anyone has ever seen before. The extremely high income earners, people in power, the 1%, WEF elite, in their opinions. They essentially have nothing to worry about and will never really experience the results of their actions the same way the average person just trying to survive and get by will. What is happening? All around the world, job loss, stores closed, prices raised, and the end of the middle class as we once knew it. This is going to severely impact the lower income, fixed income, seniors, folks with disabilities, people on SSA, SSI, SSDI, EBT, food stamps, struggling to keep up with the rising cost of inflation, the diminishing wages, mass job layoffs, hiring freezes, heavily scrutinized performance reviews, and heavier taxes, hurting us all in some negative way, shape, or form, hoping and praying, waiting for perhaps maybe a stimulus check or some other form of government aid and allotment. All right, folks, you know I don't like doing long intros, so let's get right into it. So I want to start off by saying if you haven't begun to prepare for the financial and economic collapse that is potentially heading our way, now is the time. Finding ways to increase your income, spend less money than you make, budget wisely so you know where every dollar is coming in and going before you ever receive them, and free yourself of high interest debt, credit card debt, and revolving store credit debt that just wastes money and sucks out your ability to maximize your survival and the ability to save more money and invest for the future, for retirement, for more preps, more stockpiling, improving your quality of life and working towards a comfortable retirement. Because these disruptions can occur to anyone and at any time. So I want to give you an example and tell you a quick story about a personal experience. All right, so Michelle and I really wanted to go and try out a popular local restaurant here in Destin, Florida. So one night we drove by and noticed the parking lot was empty. And we didn't really think much of it, besides it being a little odd because they are usually always packed. Well, we walked up to the door and there was a sign that said that they were closed for the night. That was pretty much it. Well, fast forward to today, and while driving by one of our local favorites, Beauchamp's, Michelle said, "Man, they are always packed and busy. Must be good for business and good for the servers, cooks, chefs, food runners, and overall staff in general." Now, it was about 1 p.m. on a Friday, so maybe it could have been a lunch rush crowd. I don't know. But either way, when then passing by Harbor Docks, which is the other restaurant we really wanted to try because we've heard such great things about them from many of the new people we have met in the area and the friends we are making. And well, Michelle, honestly, she just loves local fresh caught and prepared seafood. So anyway, we saw that their parking lot was completely empty. Well, except for a dumpster and a 10K lull. So I looked it up on the internet with a quick Google search on my Samsung Galaxy S20 FE. I didn't find anything at first, but I clicked on their website and it took me to their webpage where I saw this: temporarily closed for maintenance. Okay, now obviously this has nothing to do with the railroad workers, union workers, railway freight, strikes, the UK, or any of that, okay? But what it does closely affect is all the inputs and outputs associated with the restaurant and their ability to earn income to pay bills, necessities, buy groceries, food, stockpile, prep, cover medical expenses, buy clothes for their growing kids, make car repairs, etc. The list goes on and on. And although the restaurant will hopefully reopen soon and they will be back to work as usual, in the interim, if you don't have the basics in place, it will make it very challenging to weather and bridge the income gap that will be experienced. And despite what the expected timelines and proposed schedules may be, we all know construction never gets completed on time, nor on budget either. So this could take quite a while. So how long could you manage without receiving a paycheck or having steady income? So again, I encourage us all to begin to prepare for the financial and economic collapse that is potentially heading our way. Now is the time. Finding ways to increase your income, spend less money than you make, budget wisely so you know where every dollar is coming and going before you ever receive them or spend them. And free yourself of high interest debt, credit card debt, revolving store credit debt that just wastes money and sucks out your ability for maximum survival and the ability to save more money and invest for the future, for retirements, for more preps, more stockpiling, improving your quality of life and working towards a comfortable retirement. All right, so over in the UK, rail customers are dealing with a fourth consecutive day of travel disruptions as workers from the RMT union begin their second 48-hour walkout of the week. And only around 20% of normal services will run on Friday, and trains that are operating will start later and finish earlier. And passengers have been urged not to travel on the railways and to check the train firm's website for the latest information before they do. Members of the RMT working at Network Rail and 14 other rail operators are striking as part of an ongoing dispute over pay, jobs, and conditions. The strike, which runs into Saturday, is also set to clash with football matches and disrupt travel plans for fans. In the Emirates FA Cup alone, 23 matches are taking place across Friday and Saturday. Supporters heading to the third round tie between Tottenham and Portsmouth have been advised to be aware that stations close to Tottenham's stadium, White Hart Lane, Northumberland Park, and Alexandra Palace will be closed for the match due to planned industrial action and engineering works. No train strikes are taking place on Sunday, but normal services are not expected to resume until Monday. Talks with unions are expected to be held early next week, but trade unionists have accused the government of blocking a deal that could end industrial action. Ministers have denied they are interfering in negotiations. Union leaders have also criticized legislation proposed by the government to ensure minimum levels of service during strikes in industries, including the railways. According to union officials, the laws could lead to further strikes. The shadow Treasury minister said the proposed legislation will not help make services more reliable. And asked on BBC Breakfast how labor would ensure minimum service levels during strikes. Now, Pat McFadden said, well, when there's a strike, the trains, of course, don't run. But when there's not a strike, the trains are unreliable right now, and legislation like this will do nothing to improve that. The way to guarantee good service is to negotiate to resolve the disputes. Yes, implement reforms and changes that are needed in various sectors. Do that by striking a deal, not by striking a pose. His words, not mine, folks. And earlier this week, Mick Lynch, General Secretary of the RMT, told iRail workers could be reballoted to allow strike action to run for a further 6 months. And this is from the end of May if a deal is not agreed with the train companies and the government. Mr. Lynch said, these things are all possible. We are seeking negotiations and an agreement, and that's what negotiations are for. We got to these meetings in the spirit of goodwill and trying to get an agreement our members can support. Now, if we can't get an agreement, the campaign is still live. Friday's strike follows 24-hour industrial action by train drivers who are members of the ASLEF union. ASLEF General Secretary Mick Whelan has warned it was inevitable that further strikes would be held unless the deadlock was broken. National Highways workers in the East Midlands and East England are also striking on Friday and Saturday, while DVSA driving examiners across the UK continue their walkout. ASLEF is Britain's trade union for train drivers. Its 21,000 plus members are employed in the train operating companies, the freight companies, London Underground, and Light Rapid Transport. So you see, our supply chains and economy and the way people do business, all of it is interconnected. When running smoothly, everyone is pretty much good for the most part. But as we have seen here recently and happening more frequently, it is becoming increasingly more difficult for supply chains to maintain smooth operations. And these problems and delays can really hurt families and put a strain on family budgets and finances. And we must maintain awareness and understand the root cause of these seemingly never-ending problems and forced divisions of people and unnecessary pain and grief. I mean, this was supposed to be a recovery, y'all. It would appear as though they are essentially working against us. So we must do all we can to work together and fight back and avoid the shutdowns and avoid the possible collapse and ultimately avoiding the worst, being wiped out completely. Folks, the steps and stages of their plans are becoming more and more clear. If you've made it this far in the video, please smash the like button and subscribe for more updates, more information to help us better prepare for the warning signs that are being flashed right in front of our eyes on a daily basis so that we can continue prepping for what is likely to come our way from what is being discussed and what is happening behind closed doors. Now, we must be prepared and do all we can to avoid getting wiped out. The possible threats of massive shutdowns, food shortages, gas and diesel threats, higher prices, increased inflation, markets crashing, bank runs and liquidity issues are forever increasing. Remember, folks, together we stand. Until next time, you all take care and be safe. I'll see you on the next one.